Hey, coaches, welcome to another episode of the Three Methods series. This week, we're going to look at transition defense. We're going to build on our defensive theme so far. Let's get into it. Now, as far as the plan this week, I got kind of three different suggestions we can use in practice, along with a little bit of talk about the concept of balance and how I try to teach that to our players. And hopefully, we can get at least one or two things that we can pull into our own practice plans this week. Now, from a teaching point perspective, there's kind of a few things that I'm going to try to stress in each of these concepts here. One of them, of course, is like adhering to our overall philosophy. Right. In this case, we're going to kind of dig into a transition philosophy that asks one player to be in balance. They're going to be our get back guy, the guy that's going to try to stop any transition leak outs or anything along those lines. In the meantime, we want to get three players on the glass, uh, if at all possible here, especially if we're getting 3-point shots where we know we've got a greater chance of getting these offensive rebounds. We want to make sure that we're getting three to the glass. We also want to emphasize the first three steps, just like we would on offense. On defense, we want our guys to act with some real conviction. If you're a get back, sprint into that get back spot. If you're going to crash, then get to your correct spot on the floor where you can get a rebound. But those first three steps have got to be decidedly in one of those two directions. And then let's talk about rallying to the ball. We need our defense to stop the basketball first, sprinting to the rim in order to take away layups and then spraying out to our shooters from there. We've got to make sure we take away the layups. That's the whole goal of our transition defense philosophy. If you guys are interested in more of this kind of stuff, check out the website. We've got a great post on transition defense I wrote last year. We really kind of dig into the nuts and bolts of this and offensive rebounding and some of my ideas on that. All right, let's get into our three methods here. Now, the first thing we're going to get into is just a simple chaser drill. And this is going to be something that probably a lot of coaches already use, but the idea of presenting us with disadvantaged situations. In this case, we're going to get either a 2-on-1 with a chaser. We've got two offense, one defense in the middle, and then a chaser in the back. The drill will work pretty simple. We give the guy in the middle a chance to choose a man who to throw it to. They throw it. We're going 2-on-1 at the rim, and we're getting our trailer to sprint back. I mean, obviously, we're just trying to emphasize the point of take away the rim. Make them make a second pass. Do not let them get an easy, uncontested layup. And obviously, communication between the two transition players as well. Now, we'll get a couple reps on each side here, and then ultimately, we're going to move to a 3-on-2, where we put two guys in the middle, put their teammate on the baseline, and they face off in a disadvantaged situation again. Same idea. Stop the ball first, rally to the rim, and our trailing defenders try to find the most dangerous three-point shooter. I mean, we just want to keep emphasizing that idea of rallying to the rim to take away layups as best we can. Now, both of these scenarios, we're going to play it down and back so that both teams are getting a chance to scramble into transition defense. I really like the idea of cutting our groups into two. Let's get a winner. And let's maybe add something here, whether it's like a sprint or it's a win for a competitive cauldron or whatever you want to do. Add a competitive element here to really spice this up. All right, let's dig into method number two. Method number two, again, is I think something that a lot of coaches use. I call it 5-on-3 touch. We're talking about two defensive players touching the baseline and then trailing the play. Now, in this scenario, we're going to usually get two teams again. We're going to pit them facing each other. Our defensive crew somewhere above the 3-point line, our offensive crew just above the baseline. And more or less, I'm going to have them throw it to an offensive player. I'm going to call two numbers, and then those two numbers are going to touch the baseline on the pass. Right? As the defense passes to the offense, those two players touch the baseline, and you get basically like a 5-on-3 scenario here. Now, it's not, like a 5-on-3 is not a super common, occurrence in the game. But the offense is going to have a clear advantage to either get a rim runner or they're going to get a pitch ahead to the corner. We need to make sure we're emphasizing no layups. Let's not get locked in transition. We're not going to get locked onto our man. We're getting the ball. We're rallying to the rim with our other two players. And then it's up to our trailers to find those shooters as they sprint into the play here. I think those same points of emphasis are going to apply to this drill. Now, typically, we're going to get, an end of a possession down here with the trailing crew, and then we're going to head right back. And we're playing this live, going back the other way. This is probably going to be more of like a 5-on-5 transition possession. But look at the same things need to be emphasized here. We're going to stop the ball. Then we're going to rally to the rim and find our shooters. So I like this drill a lot. I mean, this gets us up and down. I like doing this kind of stuff at the beginning of practice. Get the guys going back and forth. Let's get them in like you can, have one coach work on spacing. I'm going to harp on the transition defense part of this, and really sort of emphasize our points. All right, let's get into our third method here. The third method, we got a 4-on-4 change drill. And this might be something that coaches have used in the half court to work on their defense. And I think you can really twist this to make this, a transition drill as well here. Now, the way I kind of have it set up is we're going to play it in the half court and then run it into transition here. So I like this as something, as we build into the year, we've got our defensive principles down. We've taught the transition principles in 2-on-1, 3-on-2, those kind of scenarios. Now we can kind of just be more detail oriented and almost letting them kind of play more freely. Now we're going to pretty much set up either 3 teams of 4, or we're going to set up 2 teams here. We're going to have one team start with the ball, of course. Typically, I'm going to let the offense make 3 or 4 passes, and then I'm going to yell out change here. Now, once I yell out change, we're going to ask that the offense and defense change positions here, right? They're going to immediately flip from offense to defense, and then we're playing this live right here at this basket. The offensive team is trying to score. Whether they get a stop or a score doesn't matter. That defense is now going to push it back at them the other way, and then we're going to return it all the way back down the other end here. Now, I like this idea. I like the 4-on-4. There's a little bit more space on the floor, so it's going to stress the defense a little bit more to cover the rim in the transition possession. Not to mention we might be a little scrambled. Perhaps, we get a layup, or perhaps we get, 2 guys at the rim and then have to recover the other way. But I like this idea of using 4-on-4 change to work on transition. All right. Here's one last little point of emphasis I wanted to get to is this idea of balance here, right? Now, balance is simply just a term that I use to refer to making sure there's someone that is getting back on defense, right? Anytime there is a shot at the basket, we need to make sure that one player is getting back to half court to make sure that there is no long leak outs, that there's no long rebounds that are leading to baskets down the other end. Now, typically this is going to be one of your perimeter players, but I don't necessarily assign the role of balance to any one individual here, right? This has just got to be the person that is closest to the top of the key, right? I do think that crashing from the top of the key is one of the more dangerous concepts here. And my philosophy typically is wherever the shot comes from, we're going to get 3 people to crash. We want to get a guy filling the free throw line in each of the blocks. The shooter, we want to let him just finish his shot. And then, of course, we want to get the other player who's closest to half court to balance, right? Now, I suppose the con to this might be, that there may be confusion, that 2 people go to balance instead of 1. But as long as we got at least one person who is sprinting back to balance, I feel like in the long run, we're going to prevent more transition baskets here, right? Balance, I think, is critical. How you teach it, how do they know who's responsible for getting back, and finding ways to incorporate that into anything you do. Even if you're running skeleton offense, 5-on-0 stuff. Make sure somebody is going to balance in every rep so that this becomes habit as we get into our short-sided games or we get into our live play of the season. All right, that's it for today. If you guys haven't subscribed to the website yet, CoachLynchBasketball.com, we've got over 100 articles on there, all sorts of aspects of the game, from practice to offense to defense to transition. Do me a favor before you head out, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're going to try to put out one of these 3-method videos every week this summer and really build up the channel. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll catch you next week.